Okay, it's me, Geordie Pete, Reading on another edition of Hollywood Balls, and we are powered by Park Lane Live, as you know. Well, it's been a while to get my next guest. Can't wait for it. Get an introduction. 1966 was a great year for English football, and no, I'm not talking about England winning the World Cup. My next guest entered the world, and he was probably one of England's finest. Welcome to Hollywood Balls, Rob Lee.
How you doing, Pete? You all right?
We're very well, thanks. We've just been talking off air about restrictions and travel, so we've got you on camera, which is great. So before we take you on a walk down memory lane, what have you been up to at the minute?
Very little. Unlike everyone else who's going off to the Dubai and the UAE, I've been sitting indoors and doing Zoom interviews but very little really. I've got me just isolating with my family. Really, I'm lucky. Really, I've got my family with me, so it's I'm not alone. So it's not as bad as some people's.
Well, at least you're behaving anyway, which is more than can be said for some certain influencers who, well, funnily enough, they're on their way home today. Speaking of influence, I can't go down your great career and your memories of Newcastle without sort of bringing up what's going on currently. Literally, it's such a sad state of affairs, isn't it?
It's been sad for a long time now. It's I think I've always said it's been on decline. Certainly since Bobby Robson went. Certainly since that, undoubtedly since Mike Ashley took over, and even since Keegan, and as far back as when Keegan, Sir John Hall, and people that wanted to love the club and wanted to push the club forward. And so, I know people are having to go at Steve Bruce and the results haven't been great, but it's the owner. The owner's got to change. The ownership has to change. And until that does, I don't care who they brought in, the best manager in the world, he would struggle to work with Mike Ashley.
I have to agree, and quite poignant. One of the banners that was hung up at St James's the other day, I thought, the War Flags boys put a picture of Mike Ashley and Bruce up together, but the message was there, and it's like you say, isn't it? I mean, if it doesn't change from the top, if the owner's happy to have currently what he has incumbent, then it's never going to change. But I mean, the football as well. Let's say the owner is the owner. We all know that, but given the football that we're being witnessed as well, it's just poor all around, isn't it?
Yeah, but we haven't just had that. I think people forget, and I don't think the football was great under Rafa Benitez. Let's be fair. Listen, Geordie fans love him. He done a great job. He understood the area. He understood the club. He didn't go on with Mike Ashley, as Steve Bruce obviously doesn't. You have to tolerate what he does. So I don't think the football's been good for a long time. So just to say that it's under the Bruce regime is harsh on him, really. I mean, who else are you going to get that's better than Brucey with Mike Ashley I know people come up with all these names of Eddie. Would he come? Would Eddie Howe come? Would all these managers come and work under Mike Ashley with them? It never changes. You've had Rafa Benitez, you've had so many managers under Mike Ashley. It's never changed. It's the same old thing. You get promises. The promises are never met. We don't get the players that the club deserves, that the fans deserve. Club needs an overhaul, not just on the playing side. It does. The players are not good enough at the minute, but it also needs from the training ground, all the way up to the very, very top. And until you get ownership of the club, whoever manager comes in, he can't change anything. If these are the players you'll give. I mean, Joe Linton wasn't brought by Steve Bruce. Everyone seems to think that Steve Bruce sanctioned this. That was the club. That was Mike Ashley. They sanctioned that buy. So, if you're getting thrown players like that, who, let's be fair, somebody mentioned the other day, you get 55 Rob Lees for one Joe Linton. So,
funnily enough, I got a text last night from Mick Lowe's, and he said, if you're speaking to Rob Lee, tell him that's what you get. And he said, don't you forget.
Yeah, it was Mick. I saw it was Mick who came out with a quote. So, yeah, listen, on a serious note, who's going to change it? And I keep saying, I'm sort of like losing interest. I'm losing total interest of actually what's going on at the club, because I know that it's not going to get better until the ownership changes.
From someone that's in the game, you know, you've got to understand as well. What you say is quite salient. That, you know, would Eddie Howe come? Is there a manager that you think is going to kowtow to what he's given, the rules that he's given? You know, any sort of self-respecting manager would want to come in there and think, I'd like to do X, Y, and Z, but he's going to have to do A, B, and C, isn't he?
Well, exactly. Yeah, the fans are talking about managers that have options. You know, like Eddie Howe would have options. You know, people they would want to manage this football club will have options. Why would they take the option of working for Mike Ashley? You know, you're promised one thing, and then you get something totally different. And it's never changed. It's not like it's been one manager; it's been all of them. So, as I said before, I hate to say it, but I'm losing a little bit of interest and will of what's going on at Newcastle. It's the same old. Whoever, if Steve Bruce goes, which I'm sure he will, and I'm sure that Graham Jones, the new coach, will take over. You know, that's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. You know, for me, Graham Jones wasn't a Steve Bruce appointment, because why would you, after having Stephen Clements and Stephen Agnew for 10 years, all of a sudden bring a new coach in unless it was forced upon you? So it just seems like another thing from Mike Ashley to undermine his manager and maybe trying to get him to resign rather than him having to sack him and pay him up, maybe.
Interesting. I'll play devil's advocate just before we do move on, Rob. You say that, you know, it lies with Mike Ashley, but given what you've got, do you not think that an Eddie Howe, the way the fans are looking at that, for instance, is possibly because they think with what Eddie Howe has, with what Steve Bruce has, he might try a different style and be more attacking? Do you think it's the style that the fans are sort of upset with?
Yeah, listen, I you can only go with what you've got, but you know,
yeah.
If the players not good enough, you know, you look for our team and who if we were taken over by good people that want to put money into the club, which of those players would you keep? That's what you got to look at. Who, if you want to push towards how we were in the entertainers' days of you know, even not going for the league, but going into trying to get into Champions League, you know, trying to win cups. Which of those players can help you do that? And it's the goalie's been, you know, if Cole Darlow hadn't played as well as he has, we've got two great goalies. You know, if he hadn't played as well as he had, we'd be further down. We'd let a lot more goals. He's probably on the verge of an England call-up because he's had so much to do. But bar him and you know, Callum Wilson's a good signing. But who else has done well this season? Who else can hold their hands up and say, yeah, I've put my lot in here and I've done well? For me, no one.
Very good point. You mentioned briefly the entertainer, so I think it's time to swiftly move on to happier times. And oh boy, fans of Hollywood Balls, could we do with a Rob Lee now and his teammates? Without doubt, though, we would say many of my family, many of my friends, many Newcastle fans say you were one of Keegan's greatest signings. Do you think that treble against Antwerp sort of made everyone aware of both you and the club and the rise?
Certainly, I think it helped myself. I was scoring goals. The club were playing well. I think they took the club seriously. It was the first time back in Europe in 20 odd years, and maybe people expect us to play the way that you do in Europe, and everyone does in Europe. You go away, you keep it tight. But our philosophy, as you know, Pete, was to attack teams, and it didn't matter if we were playing in Europe, we were playing the FA Cup, we were playing going for the league. We played the same way. We entertained people. We wanted Keegan wouldn't allow us to. He wouldn't know how to set a team up, and I think the players he brought in, you wouldn't be able to set a team up to defend. You know, he liked exciting players. He understood Newcastle fans, the Newcastle area, and he knew what the fans wanted. The fans. People go on about the fans, and the fans don't expect to win trophies. They expect to be entertained. They expect somebody to go on the pitch, put the black and white shirt on, and give it its all, because that's the way they live their lives. You know, that's that they go to work and they go and watch their favourite club 100%, and they expect to see entertaining football. That's what Newcastle's always meant to me, and that's what it's always been to me. And I don't see that we are so far off that. It's embarrassing, really.
Yeah, very much so. Now we all know about that 12-point lead. It's not something I really want to dwell on, or you, but everyone's got their opinions on it. I've got to say, would you agree that a major point in that possibly was Keith Gillespie? Because, you know, after that Man United game, the first one at Old Trafford in December, he rarely played, and we lost a bit of balance, and he was a hell of a player, wasn't he?
No, he was a great player. When he first came to us, he was probably the quickest thing I'd ever seen. He was a great, and I say he gave us balance in the team, but he got injured.
Yeah,
I think actually on that Man United game, we didn't see him for a while. When he came back, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't as good as he was, as all of us were, really. I mean, wasn't just him. And yeah, you're right. The balance of the team was sometimes we played Peter Beardsley on wide, or sometimes I played wide. You know, we had our players that, you know, Keegan played. He'd play you out of position, really. He'd play you wherever he thought, because we could all play. But I think it upset the balance. There was many things that you know. Don't forget that Man United were a bloody good team. You know, they were
been in that position as well, haven't they?
Yeah, it's not the Man United we've seen over the years. It's the Man United that under Alex Ferguson had some unbelievable kids coming through. Had some world class players. Had the best goalie in the world. So
we know.
You know, they. Yeah, unfortunately, he was that good. He you know, every time we were playing, we'd win 4-3 or draw 3, or we'd hear Man U had won. They hadn't played well. Schmeichel was brilliant, and Cantona scored. That's for the last 10 games. That's all we had. Don't forget that, you know, as well as we played in the first half of the season, the second half of the season, I think they lost one game. You know, I think Southampton, they lost one game. The rest of the time they won. They won, you know, 13 out of 15 games or something ridiculous. So I know people do say, listen, you know, we had a 12-point lead. Yeah, we did. But, you know, we had some tough games coming up. And Man U were on a run that was unprecedented, really.
In that time, and I mean, there's many to choose from. Is there a particular standout of 90 minutes for you that you can look at and say, not necessarily the team, but for you, was it like a real favourite game?
God, there was so. I think Leeds at home. We beat Leeds at home 2-1. We 1-0 down.
Yeah.
Again, they had a good team. 1-0 down, and we managed to beat them. I think we went 12 points clear after that. It was quite near Christmas time.
It was.
And that was a game where you thought, you know what I mean, we've got half a chance. We're decent. We're a good team here. A lot of teams feared us because of the way we played. So that's the game that I thought. You know what I mean? You know, you sort of I've never won the Premier League, never won a cup, unfortunately. But it was sort of like I thought, yeah, we could win this here. You know, we're a good. When you look around our team, you know, you're going out down the tunnel, you look around at your teammates. That's when you know that, you know, you look around. I saw David Ginola, Peter Beardsley, Les Ferdinand, Keith Gillespie, you know, David Batty. I saw all these players. You think, you know, someone's got to be really good to beat us. Someone's got to be really good to beat us. And unfortunately, that Man United, you know, the two results probably against Man United didn't help us. We went to their place. We didn't play well at all. And even at our place, we played brilliantly. And Schmeichel was unbelievable, and Cantona scored.
As you say, unbelievably, actually played as well as the 5-0, in my opinion, being at both games. Just one of those days where, I mean, you know, the day they got beat 1-0 with Cantona, it battered them.
You know what? I actually think we played better.
Yeah.
You know, we scored that goal early and went in the 5-0 with Darren Peacock. And I think if we'd have got an early goal against Man United, we could have done the same. But I just think, you know, the times the chances we had, you know, how good Schmeichel was. You just sometimes you can, when you're playing football, you can just tell that it's not going to be your day. I think footballers go out there, and sometimes you think, and even now, like watch it on telly, I think, yeah, they're not going to score today. And I think it was one of those. Schmeichel was just having an unbelievable game, and then, you know, they break away, and Cantona comes in and far post and scores. So it's I think you just know sometimes when it's not, you're not going to win a game.
I mean, what a time that was, you know. I mean, you talk about that Leeds game. I think, if I remember rightly, yeah, you're right. It was so close to Christmas, but we'd gone 12 points clear, and a lot of the males, possibly the females, would have been Christmas shopping. I don't think there was many presents bought that day because the Leeds the win against Leeds was close to Christmas. The Toon were 12 points clear, and it was Saturday in the town. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of Christmas shopping done then, Robert.
What more can you ask for, eh?
Now, Kevin Keegan, you mentioned him fondly. He promised you an England career, and duly obliged. You got one. It was fantastic. Got to ask you though, how did it differ playing for Terry Venables and Glenn Hoddle? Was there a major difference?
I think there's always a difference. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's always when you go and play for England, you always play slightly different to how you play for your club. You know. Because you're trying to fit the best players, you know, in the country, in England, or the best English players into a team. So it's always very big difficult. You go and meet up for a few days, and there's the mainstays of the team. But you always, you know, I was asked about Maddison and Grealish. You know, how can you fit them in the same? Well, you can't. You know, we had Gerrard and Frank Lampard, and sometimes it's really, really difficult when you go and play for England to play as you play for your club. I mean, Keegan for me was he's the one that really turned probably my potential into, and that was wasn't coaching, although he did a little bit of coaching with me. It was just speaking to me, his man management of giving somebody confidence in.
Did he energise you, Rob?
It can make you. You talk to any lad at the time, it can make you feel 10 foot tall. It can make you feel invincible. You know, don't forget, this is my idol. I had pictures of him on my wall, so it's him. For one, when he first came in for me, you think, you know, my idol. I love watching, and I had pictures of. He actually thinks I'm a good player, and he wants to buy me. So that's a big, huge bonus anyway. And then when you sort of like go and play for him, and then he actually, you know, after 2 or 3 training sessions, he said, "You'll play for England." It's a huge boost to your ego, and you know, football's about confidence. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. As we see in the Premier League, we see in the best leagues. If you haven't got, you lose your confidence. It can be dreadful. But if someone gives you confidence, you can all of a sudden become in your own mind and actually on the pitch a very, very good footballer. You know.
Yeah, and you did, boy did you, and quite a few others. I mean, you know, Warren Barton's been on with us, and Lee Clark, and it's basically the same message of what Kevin did, which is quite phenomenal, that he made that team from belief, which is great. Now, you said before that, you know, you're lucky enough to be with your family. Now, your sons, Ollie and Elliot, they followed you into the game. Ollie's just back at Gillingham just recently. It's a club he knows well, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been on. He was on loan at Gillingham when he was a kid from West Ham.
Yeah,
and done okay. He was all right. I think Andy Hessenthaler was the manager at the time. Then went sort of on his travels and went up to Hearts and played very well for Hearts first season. Had a decent season. Fell out with the manager after a year, so went on loan to Gillingham beginning of last season. Done very well with Steve Evans. Obviously, had the lockdown. We had the whole football shutting down. So Hearts got a new manager in Robbie Nielsen. Rang him immediately and said he wanted him back to play for Hearts, although they were in the Scottish Championship. So he went back up there and was playing very well, and they were top of the league, doing very well. And then just out of the blue, really, it was Steve Evans came back in, and you know, Ollie's got my grandson and his son is 3. I think his wife wanted to sort of like he's got to start school in September, so I think she wanted to be back nearer the family. So it was an opportunity for him to come back and play for Steve and Gillingham again, which it's a nice club. It's a really nice club, and they've got some. I've seen them a few times now. They're not bad. They've got Sunderland, would you believe? Sadly,
always a good one.
He scored last time. He scored against them last time, so.
Yeah, well, we hope he does again, don't we? Elliot Looting, they're sitting pretty in 13th. Do you and him think that they could maybe push for the playoffs?
No, it'd be too far for him, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It'd be too far. Yeah, Elliot's sort of like Elliot's been he's been at Luton quite a while now. He's got promoted twice and kept him in the champ when Graham Jones was the coach that bombed him out last year. Luckily enough, they got rid of him, sacked him, and got Nathan back in. And he played the last 10, 11 games and kept him up. He's had a couple of little niggling injuries this year and played sort of out of position. But no, it was a nice club. It's a good club, and Nathan Jones has come back in, and he's done very well. So they're both doing very well. So I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, rightly so. Can't let you go without touching on Harry's Heroes. Loved watching that. Great, honestly, such a feel-good programme at the time of what was happening, and still is. But I've got to know more about the bobsleighing. I'm sure I was watching it. I was sure you would give that a wide berth.
Well, I was. That's why I was last to go. I wasn't going to go on it at all. I get motion sickness anyway. And I watched a few of the lads go down, and it looked horrifying, scary, very, very fast. But then Harry was sort of like, Harry said, well, I've not been on it. So I was the sort of last one left with him. So rather than letting him go on his own, I went with him. But it was the worst minute of my life, I think. And I was sick. I was sick probably for 6 hours afterwards. I was out of it. It's off my bucket list. Put it that way. I wouldn't do it again.
Oh, so has anyone coined the new nickname, the 5G Bobby Lee?
No one's clever enough to do that over here, mate.
Oh, listen, as always, it's brilliant to see you. We really appreciate the time. Fantastic to chat to Hollywood Balls. We will catch up with you later in the season, and we hope things are a lot better. But for now, many thanks to Rob Lee.
Thanks, mate.